Hi guys, we can see that you're just starting to trickle in now. So yeah, we'll hold off and wait for you guys to come in, and we'll get started. We were just talking beforehand, for everyone that's just joined us. I've got a bit of a cold, so I sound a little bit a little bit ropey today, but yeah, bear with me. Right, guys, we'll give it just a couple of minutes, and we'll get started. Just check on recording. Brilliant. People are still trickling through. I'm sure that everyone will, yeah, we'll probably get a few more, but we'll get started. I'm aware that it's quite a nice day outside, so people might be wanting to enjoy the last of the evening sun. So yeah, I'll get started just by giving you guys a quick introduction to ourselves and what we do. Oh, Ellie's joined us. Yes, just to give you a quick, I don't think she meant to join as a panelist. It's a good start. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, just a quick introduction to Transition Partners. So Ellie, who you just saw there, is our lovely managing director. So she's been instrumental in getting set up some amazing events at the moment in partnership with Leeds Digital Festival. So Transition Partners, we are a digital technology and business change recruitment company. So we specialise in everything tech, basically. As part of our kind of what we do, really, we do a lot of events in the tech community, from testing to business analysis, through to some of our newer things around like diversity and neurodiversity. So we have been given the big privilege of partnering with Leeds Digital Festival for 3 events. So this is our introduction, well, our mobile testing event, should I say. So, quick introduction to my lovely panelists. So, we have a fantastic Mohammed, who is an associate consultant at TAD Consultancy Services, specialising in automation and performance testing. We also have the lovely Cornima, who is a software engineering test at Sky Betting and Gaming. So it's just to give you guys a quick idea on the format. So we're going to run through some really interesting mobile automation tools on this webinar. So we have the biggest tool, which is Appium, and we also, the most popular tool, Appium, and we also have XCUITest. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through both of those, some of the benefits and disadvantages and whatsoever. And if you guys could pop in your questions into the question and answer box, yeah, any questions that you've got, we'll be trying to cover some of them sporadically, but we will be covering them all off at the end. So yeah, I think it'd be a good base to start for everybody if we just start off with a key question here. So I guess, what is mobile automation, Cornima?
So like the name suggests, mobile automation basically it is automation which is done on mobile devices. So it's basically a process whereby one automates testing of an application. So in this case, it's a mobile application, and it can be either a mobile web browser, which is basically like a Chrome or a Safari that you take in your mobile device, or it can also be like a native app, which is completely developed in iOS or Android, and also like a hybrid app, which is like a native wrapper of a normal web application which you see. So there are a lot of different tools which enable us to do that. So there are both like open source tools like Appium, Calabash, etc. There are also like paid tools like Test Complete, Source Labs, etc. So there are disadvantages and advantages of most of these tools, and a lot of these tools support both iOS and Android, and some tools are very specific to either iOS or Android. Like for example, the tool that I'm working on right now, the XCUITest, is for iOS alone, and that's how the automation field works.
Brilliant, that's fantastic. And Mohammed, so why do you think mobile automation testing is important? Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry. To begin with, if I could ask you, on an average, if you have seen your phone at least 50 times a day today?
I'll be honest, Mohammed, I'm never off it.
Yeah, so that's the answer there. So the recent surveys and studies have shown that more than 50% of digital media has been on all mobile platforms, be it native apps or web browsers or hybrid apps. And we've the smartphone or tablets have become such an integral part of everyone's life that the importance of providing quality to customers has become very important, of prime priority, I could say. And you could see that your smartphone is used for almost everything, while you sleep, or while you get up, or when you're at work. You use it for your professional stuff like installing Teams, etc. Your Outlooks, your official emails are set up in mobiles. Your professional life is based on it, and your personal life, like your fitness apps, your diet apps, etc. All of that. So what I would say is, all this has brought more importance and more priority to the test automation itself. How could we, the industries, they have so much competition. This is a perfect timing. Yesterday you could see that Google launched its new device, Pixel 9 or something. So the competition is so much with all the companies. They want to be providing quality service to customers, and the need for test automation comes in, so that you could provide quality bug-free application software to the people on the mobile platforms.
Brilliant. That's a really, really good explanation. All right, perfect. So as I mentioned just at the start, we're going to be covering a couple of really important tools in mobile automation. The first of which is Appium. So this is the first mobile automation tool that I'd ever heard of, and arguably one of the most popular as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mohammed, who is going to give us a lovely talk around this, and also a demonstration. So over to you. Thank you very much. I think you're on mute again.
Sorry.
Good.
It's a habit, you see, at work.
I know, it's going to be the quote of 2020,
Okay.
isn't it?
Let me share my screen now. Right. Hope you all can see my screen.
You can, yeah.
All right, wonderful. So here's about Appium. We would deep dive into Appium itself. Thanks, Rose, for arranging this so that we could explore more about mobile automation itself.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, what is Appium and how does it work? So basically, Appium is kind of a framework where you automate your mobile apps, be it native or web apps. From a layman point of view, if you could see this diagram, you can see that Appium is kind of sitting in the middle, and there at the left hand side there are automated test scripts, which is your test cases covering each of the functionality of your app. So what Appium, it's like a server which is serving the automated test scripts and through the mobile devices. If you see, the automated test scripts send the commands, the Appium server executes them on Android or Apple's iPhone, and then sends the response, that which is pass or failure. So in this way, you could see that Appium is kind of a engine that is serving the commands from an automated script and through the mobile devices. And coming back to the technical point, you could see that this is a bit of a deep dive into the technical details itself. As you can see, the Appium is using predominantly Selenium driver. So the major objective of coming up with Appium framework was not to reinvent wheel in terms of automation. The fact that Appium uses most of the Selenium features has helped a lot in coming up with this framework. And you can see that if we deep dive just for technical people, so you could see that Appium is serving the request, and it is using different kinds of engines like UI Automator and UI Automation, and eventually helping us to test the mobile applications. Let's go to the next slide. And I've just put the XCUITest because there have been upgrades to the iOS. I will talk about it in detail. So coming to the question, why Appium? As my colleague Poonima suggested, there are so many tools in the market, and some are paid and some are open source. We will just go through few of the tools which are being widely used by the QA professionals. So some of them are Robotium, UI Automator, Espresso, Calabash, etc. So if you could see the platforms itself and XUI code, of course, you could see that Android is kind of ticking all the boxes. It supports Android platforms, it supports iOS, and it in fact supports Windows apps as well, which use Windows phones, which are based on Windows phones. Similarly, the major advantage of Appium is the scripting language itself. As you know, as I said, Appium is like a server. So your client can be written in many of the languages. So it gives us flexibility, especially for a tester who is not so well versed in coding, etc. He would have flexibility to learn either JavaScript or Java or Python or C# and go about using the Appium framework itself. Yeah, this is again like a test creation engine where we just listed out what each of the tool is using. And this is about APIs. The fact that Appium supports most of the APIs that are present available in the market has given us like it's a major important thing. For example, you could integrate any of the other frameworks. For example, if you want to use BDD, Cucumber behavior-driven development framework, you could just use the APIs, SpecFlow APIs in our case, and you could integrate and make use of most of the APIs that are present in the market. And last point, but not the least one, that is community itself. For any automation tool, or for any tool for that matter, you need to have proper support, proper tech support. So if you could see the Appium support, the fact that Appium is an open source tool, it helps us. It is having a very strong and dynamic community, which provides almost immediate responses to any tech issues you get, and you have loads of repositories to understand how the things work so that you can pick it up easily. Let's go to the benefits itself. So as you can see in this picture, I've explained earlier also, mobile has become an integral part of our life. You use mobile for different kinds of things. So this is just a picture to show that it's being used in a diverse nature. and we will just go through a few of the benefits. So I would call Appium is like an all-rounder, and the fact that it allows us to use, it gives us flexibility to use different kinds of languages has proven to be a very big yes for Appium. And the other thing is, if you want to, if any company, for example, be it a major organization or a small startup company, if you are looking to install some test lab or set up a test lab, or if you want to set up some tool set in your company, you could, the first thing you would see is the costs associated with it. The fact that this is open source is a major plus, and it's again cross-platform, and the benefit from the experiences with Selenium could be leveraged here. As I said, we don't have to reinvent wheel, writing our own APIs, etc., to communicate with different mobile platforms and web drivers. We could use the Selenium driver itself and communicate and utilize it for our maximum purpose. So as every tool in the market, there are some disadvantages and challenges associated. So if we consider Appium, you could see that Appium itself is like a server. It is processing commands externally, not, it is like an uninstrumented tool. Uh, what I mean by that is you are sending commands, it's all command oriented, and there could be network issues or network driver dependency. Because of that, there could be massive slowness when you run the test. And the other thing is the learning curve itself is a bit steep in Appium. It could be kind of challenging. And the third one is some flaky tests. The fact that we are dependent on network and web drivers and the commands that go from the automated test scripts to the device itself makes it a kind of flaky test. Sometimes the tests would pass and at times they would fail. And the other thing is, even though the tool is an open source, you could see some challenges like with keeping up with handset mobile OS innovations. For example, tomorrow you could get some new iOS innovation, like having new gestures for which Appium would not have had prepared for it. So it might take, the fact that it's open source, they might take some time to come up with an API to support that. So these are a few challenges which I've listed down here. Let's go see the demo now.
I've had a sneak peek of this and I love seeing this. So I'm excited for you to share it.
So this is a sample script. This is what I'm showing you at the moment is Appium script written on C# client. We have many of those. Many of you might have seen a lot of examples with JavaScript. I thought C# would be a nice platform just to explore more. So to you all, so this is kind of an NUnit framework where we have defined the capabilities of the device, the emulator itself, which we are going to use. I have installed an Google Pixel emulator, which would allow us to run our automated tests on this. So in order to talk to the emulator itself, we have to define some capabilities which could identify the emulator itself. If you can see, there is an ID for this. There is a device name which is called Pixel 2, and we are instantiating a driver. And what we will do is that we will run a test script now. I'll just show you the test case, what we are going to do. In this emulator, there is an app called Etsy, which is like an accessory shopping accessory app. So what I would do is I'll just show you manually first what our test script is going to do, and maybe then you can what we are going to do is we will go and click on updates, and we will try to validate whether we are getting this message or not from our script. So let's run a script and see how it works. So if you can see, this is our emulator, and this is like a client which is going to send commands. And here is the server, which is going to serve the commands through the JSON where protocol. So this is the look and feel of the Appium. If you tomorrow your friend says, have you seen Appium? This is just the screen where UI, where you can start Appium server. So I'll just start the server now. So the server is running in the background. So, and this is our emulator. So let's kickstart our test. So I'm going to click on run test. As you can see here in the left-hand side, the server has started taking the commands from my test. And if you notice the emulator, the app would open and perform the test for us. You see that the app has been opened by the script. There you go. It's clicked on get started, and it's entering the email ID and password. It clicked on favorites, and it's gone to updates. It has validated the test message. It again comes back to home and shuts down the app. So that's our test. And if we have to see the result, what we'll do is what I've done is Appium allows you to integrate with any of the open libraries that are available, be it a reporting library, be it a BDD framework library, or be it a CI/CD library, etc. So here I have integrated the extent reporting so that we could see what has happened in our test. If you see, this is the test result, and you can see that the launching of the app was successful. We successfully logged in, we clicked on updates, and we verified that whether the message is displayed or not. And this is basically the report that has finished. As you can see here, I had put an assertion, your first notification message. I wanted my message to display like this. If there was any bug in the message, I would have got the assertion as failed, and my test would have failed. So this is a simple working of Appium itself on an emulator. I would like to show a few more things. There is another very good feature in Appium called an inspector. So when you click on Start Inspector, I will just open the Start Inspector. I'll just show you the look and feel of it. So here we define the capabilities of a device, and then basically what we are doing is Appium is sending commands, and it uses a hierarchy on the page elements. So this is one of the ways you can identify the page element itself. And Appium also allows us to have record and replay our actions itself. So if you see now, this inspector has opened the Android emulator in this screen, and it is displaying the whole hierarchy of the page elements here. And what I will do is I'll just go to the browser in the emulator and say type in bbc.co.uk. There you go. So I've opened BBC. What I will do is here, I will just refresh the screenshot, and now I can see the BBC website here. There you go. So if I have to approach automation of the search within the BBC website itself, this is one of the excellent features of Appium, where you can, if you see here, select elements. If you just click on this element as for search, you can see all of the hierarchy of the elements is displayed. This is a bit of technical things which I'm just showing. I just wanted you to see the look and feel of the Appium automator itself, inspector itself, how it is helpful in identifying. If you can see, there are tab by coordinates, swipe by coordinates, and as I told you, it allows us to record as well. If you want to record something, and if you want to perform some actions on the device, for example, doing some app activity, install app, or if you want to just click on launch an app, you could see that it because this is a website. Sorry, I should have used a different one. Yeah. So if you want to just shake it, you could use this methods, and it will record things for you. And if you want to tap by coordinates, if you just click on tab, so it will record the options, or you could see the coordinates, and you could use the same. As you see here, the coordinates have been recorded. So I could just directly use this code in my script, and I will just show you. I've used tab itself. If you see here, when I'm clicking on favorites tab or updates tab, I am using a tab by coordinates method, where I am specifying the coordinates so that the app mobile in my script can go and do the operations at that point in time. So this is something about Android Inspector. Yeah, I think I will wind up now.
Perfect.
Over to you, Rose. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Mohammed. It was great to see how it looks in real life, especially from a non-technical perspective. I hear a lot about mobile automation and Appium. Never seen it. Well, I have, but yeah,
Thanks.
only the other day. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. We've had a couple of questions come through, but I'm going to save until we get to the Q&A, if that's all right with you guys. The second one, obviously that was XCUITest. So Pornima, can you tell us the story of XCUITest?
Oh, thank you, Rose. Thanks for that. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I was on mute. I can see it. It's all good.
All right. So I just want to kind of go like a journey of how I was using Appium before and how we moved to XCUITest right now. So the slides and the demo that Mohammed showed brought back a lot of memories from the time that we were using Appium. So while we were using or testing the current app, like 2.5 or 3 years ago, it had the same functionality across. We had an iOS and an Android app, and it had the same functionality across both. So we had to run the same test across both the iOS and Android app. And while we were thinking of a tool, it made sense to take a common automation tool which works against both. So like Mohammed was mentioning of the advantages of Appium, it meant like a great deal to take a tool like Appium to automate both the apps that we had. So we had just one user repository, and this same repository was used to test against both iOS and Android. While this was happening around 2018 end, there was a lot of changes to how Apple approved the apps which are there in the App Store. So they had brought some strict guidelines against how the native features should be more. And so the kind of focus we had shifted towards adding more features towards our iOS application that we had. So while this was happening, we were thinking of slightly moving away from Appium because of the fact that one major thing was that we were using Java for Appium, and to have all our developers who were building the iOS application were using Swift. So while we were thinking of a more collaborative team with a good collaboration between the testers and the developers, it was a bit difficult for the developers to review and contribute to the automation test suite because they were familiar with Swift and this was in Java. And also with more native features being added to the iOS application, we thought of focusing more on an iOS specific automation tool rather than fitting both iOS and Android. And also one of the reasons that we thought of moving away, was that the support of Appium for the latest versions of iOS took a bit of time So like right now we have iOS version 14, but there might be it might be a bit of a time lag before Appium starts supporting iOS 14. And another thing that we faced was that it was difficult to maintain multiple tools. For example, we had to maintain the Appium Studio, Appium, and also Android Studio, again, Xcode to support iOS, etc. So we spoke with a few of our colleagues who had been using XCUITest for some time, and we just had like a quick chat with them and went over their scripts. And Swift also seemed to be quite easy to pick up, and it was very similar to Java or any other language that we used. So again, the advantage was that we just had to maintain Xcode, and since the developers were already using Xcode, we just it was just a matter of adaptation from them, and they could also contribute, and we could have like a more collaborative team where it was all together, and we could reuse a lot of things that there was in the development code. Like for example, we could have like a lot of mock data from the unit tests which there is in the development code. And also we have like only one repository, so the dev code and the test code resides together in the same code repository. So it was possible to view what was there inside the actual app, like development code wise, and also stub any of the data that we require and send the mock data in any format that we required. So the main features of Xcode or XCUITest is that Xcode is the only application that we needed to maintain. And like similar to how Appium has, there's also like an accessibility inspector, which and also the live debug feature to verify and inspect the application identifiers. There's also a record playback functionality like most automation test tools have, and it enables parallel execution. So there's script execution possible across multiple devices at the same time. So you can execute test and it will run across multiple simulators or multiple real actual devices plugged into your system. Supports physical and simulators, and there's faster execution. I felt that the pace at which Xcode runs on iOS is quite fast. And it also has a very attractive feature, which I've felt was very useful, which is like a test plan feature. So as the testers, we want to select groups, so select subsets of the test cases that we have to run. So we might have like a smoke test pack or a regression pack, etc. So XCUITest gives like an inbuilt feature to have different test plans based on that and save them. So at any point when we want to run them, we can just select what we want and just run that. So that's the test plan feature. So again, which test to run as part of which build, and we can select how to run the test. Like we can select that they run in an alphabetical order or a random order, and how to manage the test artifacts. So like we can choose to have attachments or screenshots of the mobile at every step during the test, or we can also decide to maintain the screenshots during a failure. And we can also decide how to run the test under what memory conditions and locations. So we can choose to run some tests from a London location and for some test for like a non-UK location. This might be quite relevant for applications which are very geography sensitive. Page object model. So while we were developing the test, we've managed to follow like a page object model, which is, and we have segregated the test into like BDD format or behavior driven development format test. And we have got like the steps, which are basically all the method definitions inside a different file called steps. And we've also grouped the element identifiers in a different file. So there's like one repository where one focus point where you can go and change the identifiers in case of any change in the object properties. So we do not have to like go and edit all the scripts later. We can also edit, like send mock data in a JSON format or any other format, but we've been currently using JSON formats to send all our mock data. And reporting. So any test is valid only if it has like a meaningful test report. So XCUITest provides a very neat and tidy reporting for use, and we can also implement other additional plugins like XPretty and XCPretty, etc., to integrate with different tools like TestRail or Jenkins CI/CD pipelines. But as such, the XCUITest reporting itself is quite neat and easy to understand. So we can view them based upon the test plan or based on how the test time of test execution is. And results also appear in a BDD format, so how we've specified the test. So it's easy to develop like a one-to-one mapping of each test step. And like I mentioned earlier, we've got like a screenshots available, and which helps in identifying and debugging what the failure reason was. So we'll go to a small demo now. So this is the Xcode interface, and like I was mentioning before, we have the development code base and the test code base in the same area. So this is a test a sample app which I just took from GitHub. So this is there inside. So this is the dev code base. So all the Swift files for the development app is inside this particular file. So I just added a new UI target called this UI test, and all the tests that I've written are inside this particular folder. So these, so when you can see that there are test steps and elements. So test has all the steps which I have written in BDD format. So I'll show you the app that I am. So it's basically a very small test app. So this is just a simulator. So you just got like a UI like this, and there's an enter button. So the test that I've written is just to launch the UI, click on the enter button and verify if this welcome to XCUITest message has come up. And I've also just got another test to just verify that on first launch, this message is absent. So I've just written this test multiple times here. So I just wanted to run like a parallel execution of multiple tests just to show you how these tests would run parallelly on multiple devices. So like I was talking about the test plan, I've got like a sample test plan here that I've created. So it will, when you create a test plan, it will display all the tests that you've got in your test suite. So you can pick and choose what you want to run. You can it's just a matter of clicking a check button, what test that you want to execute. And you can also specify if you want to run these tests in parallel or run it just on one device. And also if you want to automatically include any new tests, because I've check this right now, if I add a new test to this test suite at this point in time, it'll automatically get added to my test suite. And here is where I can select what device that I want to run it on. So right now I've just selected an iPhone 11 simulator, which is on iOS 13.7. And this particular test scheme, that XCUITest 101, is pointing to sample test plan, the test plan that I've created. So if you go to this test scheme here, you can see that I've pointed it to this test plan. So whatever test that I have added in the test plan would run. So I'm just doing a command control U to run the test. So you can see that it's started off. So basically this is this test where you click on enter and verify the message. I've just added it some like 12 times just to see how, just for you to get a hang of how far quick the execution is and how it runs. So while the execution is going on, so you can go to this particular tab here to see how the execution, which test is currently being run. So if you can see the progress icon against the test, it shows that that test is being executed currently. So there are two progress icons now because it's running on two instances of the simulator simultaneously. So whichever has finished execution would show like a pass of green tick or a red cross depending upon the pass or fail. So all those 12 tests are finished and it's all green. So this is the test report section. So if you go here, you can see by group or also by time. So if I just go to by group, I can see that all these tests are finished running, and it also shows how much time it took for each of the tests. So if I just expand it, I can see that it shows some details like start test, when it started, and when the tear down started, how much time it completely took. So the tests or the steps that's relevant to us at this point of time are here. So given the demo test application is launched, when I click on the enter button, then I'm able to see the welcome message. So it will only show whatever the relevant, like test steps are for us. So instead of having like a huge log of, click and verify, etc., this much would be quite enough for a manual tester or anybody to just look at it and understand what's happened. So if any of these tests had failed, it would have had like a detail. So you can also go inside to see detailed logs of what's happened inside the test. And if any of the tests had failed, it would have attached a screenshot here at that point of time. So you can see what's happened, and it would show like a snapshot of the mobile browser or a mobile application at that instance where it's failed, so you can understand what's happened. So that's how the test plans are. And like I was telling you, the POM or the POA model. So this is where my tests are, where the all the tests are written in the given when then format. And the method definitions of each of these given when then tests are written inside the steps file. So this is basically like a steps file where I've done the assertions of tapping on the buttons or verifying what's present, etc. And I also have like an element file where I have like a screen by screen basis division of each element inside the application. So it might be like a good idea to segregate the element files based upon the screens and add each element into it. So at a later point of time, whenever there's a change in any of the element properties, it's easy to go there and then identify which particular screen it's under and go and edit the properties. I also have another class which is called the base class. So right now I've just got like an assert functionality into it. So this is basically like a super class where you'd add any of the common functionalities which you want to test across the app. So any of the common features or functions that you want to use across the apps, you'd add it to this base class. So I mean, this is just a like a framework that I've been following. So it can be like any format. So basically, if you look at the dev code and the test code, so you'd have the test code here. And if there are any unit tests, the unit test would also appear here. So you can, the devs can access the test, and the testers also can access the development code. And also you can look at the unit test and come to a, like a intelligent guess on how many unit tests are required and how many UI tests are required. So there need not be a duplication of work. So in areas where you've had enough unit tests, you don't need to additionally add UI tests because they've already been covered. So that helps like make like a good judgment of how many unit tests and a right percentage of unit and UI tests to cover at that point of time. So that's all I have. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Ponima. I really enjoyed that. So we had quite a few questions which have come through. So I'll try and share them out a bit. So Simon had some questions for you around this for yourself, Ponima, just around XCUITest. So Simon would like to know, how does XCUITest compare with Appium in terms of execution speed and also test robustness?
So Appium and hi, first of all, thanks Simon for the question. And as a person who's used Appium before in the same test applications, I've felt that XCUITest runs quite faster. Could be for the basic reason that the only libraries it needs to pull up are from the Xcode side. It doesn't need to start any third-party applications, or there's no other interface in between. And it does run quite faster, like you might have seen right now, where there was like during the demo, it takes very few seconds, just so there's no time delay for the application to start loading. So what I've seen when using the other apps is where the other app testing tools is that there's a delay even before the application starts loading. So that is completely eliminated here. And once you've got the build, it just like starts off immediately and starts testing. So it is quite faster in XCUITest, and test robustness is also quite good. The only issues that I've found are again like related to environment, etc., which is I think common across any tool that we take. So there might be data problems and slowness of the app to load basically, but other than the test robustness is comparatively better, I've felt.
Brilliant, perfect. And one for you as well, Mohammed. So Andy would like to find out, so using Appium, could you automate testing on mobile, iOS and Android apps? And would this be automated on a physical mobile device or via the cloud or another way?
Yeah, thanks, Andy, for that question. It's very nice, very nice question. Sorry. Yes, Appium supports all of the cross platforms like Android, mobile, iOS, and in fact Windows apps as well. And we could use either emulators or physical devices or cloud. Having spoken about cloud, there are numerous providers who provide test labs which are hosted on cloud, which you can leverage. For example, someone has mentioned about Browser Stack is one of them. Perfecto is another one. There are many which we can leverage. Of course, they all come with some cost, but if you want to learn something, you could just use a trial version and make use of their cloud setup to run your tests on various devices based on your test scenarios. I mean, if your test case requires your test app should be tested on different devices, you could make use of them and run them. Hope I have answered your question. Thanks. Rose, I think we lost you.
Yeah, I think Rose videos got frozen.
Yeah.
I can take the next question, which I see in XCUITest, which says, can you run XCUITest in Browser Stack or other cloud-based device providers? So I've not personally tried Browser Stack, but yes, I've tried Perfecto. So again, Perfecto is a cloud-based device provider, which has got physical and simulators which we can access. So XCUITest has got integration support in Perfecto. I'm assuming it should be there in Browser Stack as well. So
yes, it is there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can definitely plug in XCUITest to Browser Stack or Perfecto or any of these cloud-based device providers, and the results would get updated. So there is support for them. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, one of the fascinating things about these two test tools is that there are numerous frameworks, libraries, cloud platforms which you could leverage to run your test suite.
Yeah, it was quite surprising when I was just inquiring with Perfecto. You never expect every one of these automation tools to be covered, but Appium and XCUITest are some of the tools which are like thought about when any of cloud device platforms or CI/CD pipelines, etc.
Yeah. Any more questions? Should we wait for Rose to join back, or?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. Yeah, I can see a question in Q&A. So I can see a question which Pavel has asked.
Oh.
Yeah, so people have made a promise to themselves to stay as far as possible from selenium. Is there a way to get Appium going without selenium, or is a must dependency?
Well, The answer itself is in the question itself. Since Appium is open source, if you want to explore something, try to write some web driver which is complete, doesn't have dependency on Selenium, you could go ahead and do Pavel. So for now, I think if Appium is dependent on Selenium, but as I said, the tools and technologies evolve every day, and you could see someone tomorrow developing something. Maybe Appium server itself is is hosted on a cloud, and you have more robustness, performing things better. So in that way, at the moment, the dependency is still there, but you never know. As part of these technologies and tools, there will be something which will stop Appium using Selenium. Hi, Rose, you're back.
Hi, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
I hate technology.
That's all right.
Thanks for that.
We've almost answered all of the questions, and we
Oh,
noticed that there is one last question in the Q&A from Smija. I'll just read out the question. With Appium Android testing, we have seen smoke tests are stable, but instability seen with regression test. Have you seen similar issues? Yeah, in general, as I said, there is some flakiness in Appium test itself, but what from personal experience, I've done overnight executions, etc., and it seems to be doing the work for us. And it's quite, as I said, the tools are evolving every day, and you could see that all of the latest versions of Appium always have something related to performance. They are trying to improve the performance every upgraded version which they deploy. So we could see that these issues would not stay for long in future.
Brilliant. I've just seen that there's actually a couple more questions if you guys have got time. So Alan would like to find out, is there a gap in the market for a record and playback mobile app automation tool that requires very little technical knowledge, therefore opening it up to manual testers? And if it is the case, how do we get in on it?
I think there isn't any automation testing tool which does not require, which does not have a record and playback feature as such. But yeah, there would be like a basic test anybody can write in any automation tool with a record and playback function. But it again, needs a bit of kind of a molding to make it more stable and more adaptable to all kinds of environments. So a test which is just written using a record and playback would be quite, flaky, if I might call it. So there might be, some period while that comes up, but I think it can still be a flaky test. See, speaking of flaky test,
yeah,
question on a flaky test.
Yeah. So Simon, to answer your question, it's all in the code. If you write your code to handle all these kind of flakiness, for example, when I ran my test, my test would have failed with an issue not identifying the page view itself, element itself. So for that, if you write a code to balance it, if you understand that the test has failed for so and so error, you could rerun the test again to make sure it passes. So this is how you cope with the flakiness itself. Hope I have answered your question, Simon.
Just a couple more things. So around coding, so Andy just asked, what coding skills would you guys recommend for testers who are interested in learning? I know you touched on it before around, like Swift and Java for that. What would you recommend for somebody who is looking to learn a language specifically for mobile?
Having met so many testers in my life, I would say JavaScript and Python tick the boxes for novices who want to start something new. Yeah.
Again, having a knowledge of one of these would, make it, once you are quite familiar with either Python or Java, one of these, it makes it very easy for you to adapt and learn anything else, because the level of programming skills required from, with an automation testing tool might not be that, that complicated. So once you've got the hang of one automation or one programming language, it's just a matter of time, learning and adapting to anything. So one of these really.
That's brilliant. That's one of the most common questions that I get asked for someone who's looking to make the entrance into automation. What language should I learn first? And I'd have to agree with, a lot of the clients that I see that are hiring in that space, it's often Python or JavaScript. I actually tried to learn Python myself once. Someone told me it was the easiest. So I'm going to have to say that it was not easy, but but yeah, I can understand why.
Time, Rose.
One day maybe. Massive thank you to you both for obviously sharing your pearls of wisdom with us. I've certainly learned a lot about mobile automation there, and yeah, I'm hoping we can continue the discussion as well. So I'm going to pop I'll pop a post up on our LinkedIn afterwards, and this will be available on YouTube. So if you want to reach out with any questions that you have or any follow-ups, please do get in touch with us. And thank you all so very much for joining us. And yeah, massive thanks, Mohammed and Paulina, for your time. So yeah, have a lovely evening.
You all have a lovely evening.
Thanks guys.
Bye.
Bye.